Today we're going to have a little conversation about misconceptions, and just to give you a little idea of what is it's regarding this particular screenshot that you're seeing right now. Now, this screenshot was posted a couple days ago by this person. You are going to also watch me reacting to that person's, because day after he posted that, he posted a video to go with the meme that he created. And the first thing I do when I see something interesting on Twitter is I go and do my own fact checking. The reason for that is because I don't know if it's happened to you, but it happens to me that I will see something I like, repost it, and next thing I know, it's a lie, or a half truth or whatever, and you end up with egg in your face. Well, in order to avoid that, I go and fact check first. If it's legitimate, I'll post it. If it's not legitimate, I won't post it, blah, blah, blah. I had quite a few issues with this particular one. And so I decided to go and fact check this man. And sure enough, I found that, let's just say my education came in handy. So before I continue, let's go ahead and do the reaction to the video, and then I'll come back. And by the way, the sound in the reaction is going to be a little different because I need to take the microphone off so I can hear the video and pause it. I apologize in advance. I'm new at this, okay? Here we go. So what we're going to try to do right now is I am going to play the video that this gentleman made, and I am going to be reacting to it. Clearly, I'm going to interrupt, shall we say? Because, as we all know, if I don't, then it's not considered transformative, even though this entire video is not just about this particular thing. But let's go ahead and watch.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. So, yesterday I posted this meme. And I asked everybody, do you see the problem? And I got the predictable responses.
I got the predictable answers. Okay, so people were questioning whether or not you were being misogynist because you were talking about single women. Is that what you call predictable answers? Or is it that you don't take responsibility for the rest of your account, which we will see later?
But what I was hoping everybody would recognize, I don't think you caught.
No, we didn't catch it because you didn't write it. All you wrote was that single women were owning most of the houses.
And it's my personal opinion that with women owning most of the homes, single women owning most of the homes, and that's data in that meme, I believe the real estate industry is building their own end game to a total collapse of the real estate industry and housing market.
When his video is about 2 minutes and 40 seconds long, and of course I'm going to react to it. I'm reacting to it right now. But I want you to understand that there's very good reason for me to believe that that is incorrect.
It'll be catastrophic national crisis. Let me explain. So research and data already quantifies the fact that men are the taxpayers. That evidence and research is out there. That men are the core household earners in America and most of the countries globally. That research is out there. So that's not a flippant comment.
Okay, so interestingly enough, he just admitted something that you will see on the screenshots that are going to go across the screen as I'm talking. He just admitted something that is very well known, but men like him dispute all the time, and that is that men make more than women. And by the way, this is even in the same job. Watch a CEO male, how much money he makes versus the average CEO a woman makes. And I'm not talking about the superstars. I'm talking about the average CEO male versus the average CEO female. It's not comparable. In fact, it's 20%. There's a 20% difference. But not only that, he's assuming that men pay more taxes than women because when you file your taxes, I don't know how it is in another country. I'm just talking about the United States. When you file your taxes, the main breadwinner is the first person, the first name on your tax form. So he's taking that into consideration when he's doing this observation. He's not, if you're a family and your wife doesn't work, then there's no income, so you're not going to put your husband, you're going to put her name because of the tax deductions and whatnot. but you're the main breadwinner, and that's the name that shows up on the form. See what I'm saying? So I find that very interesting that he just admitted something that most men like him will ultimately deny.
But what's interesting is if single women own most of the homes, the real estate industry should actually come out in total support of fathers' rights. And here's why. You are short-sighted, and I'm speaking to people in the real estate industry, you're very short-sighted. You're actually building yourselves into a catastrophic failure model.
What does fathers' rights have to do with owning houses? And why is that relevant to somebody that's selling real estate? I mean, and here's where I'm going with this. It's not that I don't think it's important for men, for good men to have rights with their children. But here's the thing. When you're selling a house to somebody, you don't go into those kind of things. You don't go into the personal things. Unless the person buying or selling is telling you. Which means that very rarely does a real estate agent know that there is a they might know that there's a divorce going on, but they don't know how bad it is. I don't understand what that has to do with anything.
Because eventually, these single women are going to change their status. In other words, leave the real estate, possibly go to a rented architecture, or they'll die off. And look at the age brackets of single women owning homes.
He mentions that these single women are either going to rent off or die. I'm basing this on generalizations. Keep in mind, I'm not an expert, but doesn't that sound like he's talking about older women who own houses because they probably either divorced because their husband left them for the younger model or another model, doesn't matter, or they're widowed and they're older? Because a younger woman can keep a 3-bedroom house, and because she's been doing it this whole time. In fact, if anything, not having the husband there is kind of like a little help because there's less mess to clean up because you're only cleaning for yourself. But an older woman might decide to leave the house to their children, or the house is too big for me, I'm going to move into this apartment and leave the house or sell the house. And of course, die off, I'm not going to go into that.
So if men are the taxpayers in America, and the research says that, if men are the predominant household income wage earners in America, and the research says that too, for the real estate industry not to come out in support of men's rights and fathers' rights, you are building into your own end game.
I find it very interesting, and this is not saying that he's not right or wrong. You're going to find out more about this in a minute. But here's what I find very interesting. He keeps mentioning, oh, the research says that, the research says that. This video is 2 minutes and 40 seconds long, and at no point in this video does he insert a screenshot of any of the facts that he's claiming. As you're going to watch in this video, in the entire video, I have screenshots going on the entire time showing you whether or not he's correct. But he didn't take the time to do that. There's only 1 or 2 reasons why he did that. Number 1, he ran with the headline and didn't actually read the whole story, or actually did the research into the statistics, or he knows exactly that he's misleading with this information. The problem here is that he sounds so sure of it that people will actually believe him. And that is the major arc of this video. It's not about him specifically, although I am talking about this person. It's about the fact that we have a tendency to believe whatever is put in front of us without actually analyzing based on how the person looks in terms of how secure they sound. I looked at this guy's bio. I didn't see, and I might be wrong, I didn't see anything about real estate. I didn't see that he was an investor or a real estate agent. He's just flapping his gums. But people will look at this guy, and because he sounds so sure of himself, and research shows, people will believe him.
You're going to destroy yourself. Short-term gains, sure, you're going to win short-term gains. But long-term, you're looking at a total economic collapse of the real estate industry, specifically the housing market. And men, my advice to you is wait. It's going to collapse totally, nationally, catastrophically. And it's because of the short-sightedness of the real estate industry that this will happen.
Men, just wait. Is that because you're an opportunistic jerk and you just want to come and scoop all the houses when the market goes down? Is that what you're trying to say? But more importantly, I don't even know how to say this. why would somebody be so excited about the complete collapse of an entire group of businesses? Because, by the way, the last time we went through a real estate crisis, the real estate crisis was just, it didn't just stick to real estate. It took down the entire economy. I'm not going to get into the specifics now, but I can tell you one thing. He's wrong about the why. He's not necessarily wrong about what's going to happen. We're already seeing prices go down in certain areas. But that doesn't mean that it's because single women are buying the houses. And again, I'll show you how in a minute, why in a minute.
So if you know someone in the real estate industry, you might want to channel this video to them and say, listen to what this guy's saying. Do a 20-year and 30-year prospectus on this and watch their mouth hit the table. But also, too, they'll probably go, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to retire in 5 years, 10 years anyway. I'll let the next generation deal with it.
He's talking about 20, 30 years down the road. From the research I saw, and I just don't want to give you have to wait, okay? But from the research I saw, the housing market, yes, it has changed a little bit, but not as much in the last 20 years.
You see, generational abuse. Again, generational abuse. People in America and most of the countries globally fail to look at the long-term strategic impact of their behavior. Things got to change, people, or else countries, nations, by and large, are facing economic catastrophes in certain market segments that will not be recoverable. So think about it. God bless and have a great day.
That is the only thing I agree with him on. And it is the fact that we tend to look short term and we don't look long term. This is, I would love to hear from other countries. If you don't live in the United States, please let me know if your country is the same way. But we are headed by a bunch of CEOs and a bunch of political and religious leaders who only think about the short term. And I'm going to give you a silly example that is going to rile up some people, but I don't care. The book ban, specifically in Florida. What ended up happening is that some very smart people realized that there's a lot of the horrible content on the Bible, and they went to different areas of the state of Florida and banned the Bible. And because of the way the law and not the law, but the process is written, they managed to get the Bible banned. And now DeSantis is like, well, if it shouldn't be people that are not parents, but baby, you let people that were not parents do all these book bans because you didn't want real history to be taught and you wanted to discriminate against certain people. He didn't think in the long term. Okay, so let's start with the basics. When I did the research, and keep in mind, what you just saw is me reacting to what he said without getting into the specifics. I'm going to get into the specifics now. The first thing I found out was that the information that he was basing his entire story on is misleading. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have an education in my business. I have a business major, okay? And my education was based on marketing, but in order for me to be able to take my marketing classes, I had to take a year of something called método cuantitativo, which I don't know how to call it in English. It was, let's just call it business math 101. It was, when they say 101 in universities, it's usually more like 503 because it's not as simple as they make it look, but it is what it is. The thing about this year of taking this math is that after I took that entire year, I had to take another year of statistics. And I have to thank my professor, and I've mentioned him before, because he gave me an eye for noticing things that the average person doesn't notice, or the media hopes you don't notice. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that I noticed about this whole story about women, single women being the majority homeowners, here's where it goes to misleading. And I realized that he picked this probably from the media, but the reason why I'm making this video is because I want you to actually analyze what people are telling you and not just fall on the bandwagon, okay? When I looked at the statistics, the first thing that I noticed is that 60% of houses are still being purchased by couples. Okay? That makes a difference in this entire show that he's making. because he was talking about the market collapsing. How's the market gonna collapse if 60% of ownership is still being done by couples? Then you look at the statistics of single men and single women buying houses. Yes, it is true that single women own more houses than single men, but single women buying houses and single men don't even make the whole 30% of the rest of the, because it's about 61% are married couples, and then you have 20% that is, well, more like 25% that is between females, single females and single males. And so the numbers are not there, sir, for you to claim that the market is going to collapse because more women are buying houses. Unless he just ran with the title of the article and didn't actually do the research that I did. One or two things is true. Either he didn't do the research or he did do the research, but he wants to fool you just like the media wants to fool you. In this particular situation with the housing, they're going by realtor statistics, and I found at least 2 articles that were saying the same nonsense that this man was saying in terms of who buys more houses. Again, this is why having a background in statistics always helps. If you actually look at the numbers, which it took me several, I had to go to several sources to make sure that I had the right numbers. But as you could see on the video from the table that I had from Statista and all the other sources, the reality is, and I'm going to look it up again because I want to make sure that I give you the right numbers. If you looked at married couples, the number was around 60% if you average out all the numbers there. If you go to single female, I want to say 20, but I don't know that I want to say 20 because the 33 to 42 age group has 14% and whatnot. And then you have like the lowest percentage is 14%. The highest percentage is 21. So let's put it at 16%. Then males, the lowest was 7, the highest was 12. So let's put that at 9%. And then you have unmarried couples, which is another 5 or 6%. So if you take the married couples with the unmarried couples, on that group alone makes about 65% of the market. And then you have other. I don't know what they mean by other. I didn't do. I apologize because it was late and I was tired. But in other, and I'm assuming other would be like a mother and son, or brothers, or sisters, or siblings, or just another setup. Maybe a couple of friends. I guess a couple of friends would be considered an unmarried couple. Or maybe some people that buy houses, like 3 or 4 people band together and buy a house, which is very common now. Millennials have make that a little bit more common because one person cannot afford the mortgage. That's about 3%. It's very consistent on all age groups. So you have about 65% of the population being married couples, and then you have maybe 18 to 20% of the population being single women. How is 18% of the population going to destroy the real estate market? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't see that happening. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm dumb and I don't understand that logic. But here is my bigger issue. When I went to look at this man's account, it became very clear very quickly that the problem is not that there's single women buying houses so much as there's women doing anything. Because 2 or 3 posts later, I found this cute little post talking about this 304 are delusional, thinking that they can marry a man and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't know what 304 meant. And on the comments, I saw somebody saying, what does the 304 mean? And he said, go look up Urban Dictionary. And sure enough, Urban Dictionary was nice enough to explain to me that 304 meant hoe, because it's, if you write 304 in a calculator and turn it upside down, it spells hoe. Childish, yes. But when you look at the man's bio, this man, apparently he's a domestic abuse survivor. I am not going to judge him on that, because for every person that I know that has been the victim of domestic violence, I know one that claims to be, and they were the actual abuser. So I'm not going to get into whether I think he was or his wife was or whoever. Bottom line is, he's a veteran. He's this, that, and the other. But more importantly, he runs a nonprofit. And as soon as I see nonprofits in certain degrees in certain areas, I automatically think scam. I'm not saying that he's a scammer. I think he has a good idea. And by the way, there's something that he says at the end that, like, you heard me when I was reacting. He's very right on one thing. We in the United States, I can only speak of the United States. I don't know if other countries are like this, but in the United States, we tend to think on short term. This is very obvious when you go to corporations and you see that they do things like for less than a year. They want to adjust to things immediately, and they don't think about what impact what they do now is going to have in the future. And that is very common in the United States. I don't know if it's common in your country. If you're from a different country, please let me know in the comment section below. But the reality is that this man is talking about women as being not very nice. And every post that I saw where he talked about women, he's assuming all women are opportunistic. I don't care how bad your luck has been with women. The only way you think all women are bad is if your sense of reality is a little skewed. So calling women delusional because they want the good husband and the nice family, and everybody wants that, dude. Even you. And you can talk a good game on social media because nobody has to deal with you face to face, but I can guarantee you that deep down inside, that's exactly the same thing you wanted. You didn't get it. Guess what? Most people don't. I have a wonderful husband and a beautiful, intelligent, amazing, successful daughter. Guess what? We are not traditionally successful. She's not a CEO of a company, nor do I want her to be. My husband's not well, he is kind of a manager, so I can't say that. But bottom line is, we are not rich. We are not rolling in dough. We struggle like most people do. And you know what? That doesn't make us less successful as a family, because we work hard at being a unit. It takes a lot of arguing and conversations and talking and planning and doing everything we can to survive as a family in the United States of America right now. And for you to automatically assume that a woman, because she's a certain age or because she looks a certain way, then she must be less than, just says a lot more about you than it does about her. But going back to this whole thing about the real estate, it is very fascinating to me to watch any age insult, because that's what you are. At the end of the day, that's what this man is. He wants to defend men's rights as if men are somehow being punished. There were many years when men did not have to pay for their sins. And now that they're actually paying for their sins, all of a sudden they're the victims. I have a big problem with that. Not every man deserves the custody of their children just because the wife wants to go work for a living. Not every man in this world deserves to have custody of their children, period. And you have to keep in mind also that sometimes judges will ask the children, how is life with mom and how is life with dad, before they make a decision. There's studies that are done about your family before that's decided. And at the end of the day, if you have daughters and this is your mentality, I think they're better off without you. Because a level-headed man would make them shine and would keep his opinions to himself and not put them on social media. Now, this man has decided to make a career out of men being victims and men not being treated seriously. And on that alone, it's annoying because he's not taking into consideration a lot of things. There was one post, I don't know if I kept it or not. If I kept it, I'm going to put it here, where he mentioned something about men being abused as if women are not abused. I already made that video. I'm not going to repost the statistics here. Overwhelming majority of victims of violent crimes are women. And I'm talking about, you know, the ones that I cannot mention on YouTube. I'm not talking about anything that deletes a person out of this earth. I'm talking about other kinds of crimes. Like, you know, if you're a victim, if you're in a marriage and somebody likes to, you know. So there is a very skewed mentality on this person. So I cannot tell you if he just ran with the headlines, which is possible, or if he actually analyzed the headlines. There is no crisis. Number one. Number two, you know, men usually make the buying decisions in houses. Well, they used to. And we had a ridiculous market crash in 2008. Who are you going to blame them? Even better, because of the artificial inflation that we have been seeing for the last few years, ever since the panini came, and everybody's trying to recoup their losses, so they thought the most brilliant idea was to just create an artificial inflation situation like we're having now. Everything that goes up has to eventually come down. I live in the cheapest state, well, it used to be the cheapest state in the country, and right now 2-bedroom houses are selling for $600,000. And I've actually seen them because until recently I wanted to stay here. I would not, even if I had the money, I would not pay $600,000 for this little house. I don't pay $600,000 for doll houses. I only paid $150 once, and it was because it was for my daughter. It was a Barbie doll house, and I really wanted her to have one because I never had one. And yeah, that's the most I would pay for a little doll house. I don't believe in paying a lot of money for a tiny little house. And I understand that eventually my daughter hopefully will have enough money to get her own property. So I don't need to have a humongous house because eventually it's going to be just me and my husband. But the reality is the housing prices are through the roof right now. And you're beginning to see in some markets that they're beginning to hit bottom. Because, again, everything that goes up must go down. That's what happened with the market crash a few years ago. Don't you remember that? So, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.